been around Salesforce for a dozen years, got to watch Salesforce build out initially the manufacturing vertical, and now it's manufacturing auto energy. So some of the slides, I was a part of as a customer, sit on the manufacturing advisory board, but now I've been here at Salesforce for about 4 years. I do want to start off with thank you. Thanks for coming in here. I know there's another session, so Jason and I were talking about competing sessions. So thanks for making the time to come into this one. And I want to make this really collaborative. So I'm going to stop often, ask me questions. Really, that's kind of the mode that I like to go in, and just share whatever I can about what we see as trends, how Salesforce got to where we are today in a manufacturing vertical, and really just kind of go through it. So I have to show you the forward-looking statement. Make all purchase decisions based on what's commercially available today. That's our message from our attorneys. But really, here's the agenda. So how did we get to where we are today? I think is probably top of mind. Trends we're seeing, and then the solutions and really the innovations that Salesforce is coming up with. But really, it's through our customers and our partners that we innovate. It isn't Salesforce doesn't have a think tank that sits around and thinks this is what manufacture. We tried that, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, and it really didn't work out very well. It took a little longer to get things moving, and as we've released new solutions, we've followed the same kind of model that I'm going to kind of go over here. So if you go back in 2014, it was one of the first, one of the kickoffs, right, from the manufacturing vertical. Brought in a bunch of manufacturing companies for the manufacturing advisory board and kind of asked them, hey, what's the day in the life of a typical manufacturer? Now, there's different versions of this. This one would be, there's a discrete and a process manufacturing. This is the discrete. But in 2014, this is about where Salesforce was, right? It was the classic CRM tool, sales, marketing, and some service in more like the call center type of service capabilities, internal customer service, no field service. And the blue areas really are where Salesforce had a solution. And in the white area in 2014 was either white space, which there was simply nothing, or we had partners that had created solutions that sat on top of Salesforce and could solve a certain problem like warranty, right? So like a Tavant, which is an ISV partner of ours. They have a solution, sits on top of Salesforce. Now you fast forward to 22, and this is what it is today. So the white space really doesn't exist. There's solutions out there from our partners, from our ISV partners, that will solve pretty much every problem on here. This covers probably about 95% of all manufacturers that are out there. There's nuances that aren't covered. But some of the key things that I like to point out is the blue boxes now, obviously there's a lot more of them. And what Salesforce would do is look around, and a couple of examples that are on there really are like a commerce solution. So CloudCraze was an ISV partner, created a commerce solution that sat on top of Salesforce. Salesforce acquired them and pulled that onto our core code. It's one of the things that Salesforce does is if there is a solution that was built on top of Salesforce within 9 cycles, so basically 3 years, because we do three releases a year, Salesforce's target is to then have that as part of the core platform, as really the core, so that 3 times a year, that solution is going to be updated. When it came to, CloudCraze is one of them. CPQ, which is up here, is another one. There's a company called SteelBrick. Same thing. Bring it into the core platform and really make it more of a holistic platform of engagement, and not, what it was in 2014, which is really a CRM tool. So I think that's the biggest differentiator today if you look at where we've gone from in 2014 to 2022 today and beyond. And then we keep innovating on top of it. With Manufacturing Cloud, that was kind of unique because we leveraged the partners. Well, first, before I go on, is there anybody have any questions about any of these? There's 28 boxes. Marketing said we had to stay on 28 boxes. That's why there's 28 boxes up there. But no questions? Awesome. So from the manufacturing advisory board and looking at a solution specifically for manufacturing, Salesforce did what they typically do, and they look around. Has someone built a solution that sits on top of Salesforce that would solve problems? When it came to the initial use case, a lot of the companies that are on here, the use case for Manufacturing Cloud, a lot of the companies on here provided input. In the initial release, and I have a slide further on that shows all the releases since actually except for one, the latest one, and the different solutions that come in that release. But the initial use case was really around sales agreements. So I can use my old company, for example. We would have an agreement with, say, Sherwin-Williams for paint. And we would provide them X quantity of metric tons over an 18-month period, a 1-year period, 24-month period, whatever that was, at a set price. So they agreed to it. Sales would go out. Sales would get comped on it, the salesperson. And we really couldn't do very much about it if we got to the end of that agreement and Sherwin-Williams didn't buy everything they said they were going to buy. So there's that input there. So that's, from a sales agreement perspective, that was the initial use case for Manufacturing Cloud, so that could be monitored all in real time, integrated with your whatever your ERP is, whatever your back office is that's looking at the consumption of that agreement, and then giving the salespeople, the sales leaders, that dashboard that sits there and says, this is the health of that agreement. So a lot of companies on here that helped us come up with that, and also there's the different use cases. I guess my boxes are a little messed up there, but different types of manufacturers that are also leveraging Salesforce as a platform today, not necessarily Manufacturing Cloud, because some of these companies have built out that solution already, that sales agreement solution themselves in their instance. But a lot of this is really just showing the differences in all the different sub-verticals, I guess, inside of manufacturing that we work with, these different customers. Some of the trends. So we talked about several of these yesterday, right? With inflation, with the costs that are going up, interest rates, what's happening, the trends that manufacturers are seeing. And one of the things that I didn't talk about yesterday that is pretty important is we're seeing a trend with some of the manufacturers that used to create product and have it in inventory, kind of turning to a JIT, right? That just-in-time inventory. So they're making the product, and that's helping them with their costs, right? So they're looking at existing costs, because one of the challenges for it wasn't Greg. It's not Greg's company from yesterday, but a roofing company that I work closely with is the cost of the product, the cost of the raw materials that they bought during COVID, toward the end. I guess COVID's still here, but last year. And how much did that shingle cost them versus what it cost them pre-COVID, and what it's costing them today? So that's something that they're looking at. So they're monitoring that to be able to figure out how much inventory do we actually want to have with our distributors? Do we want to have a lot of inventory with our distributors? Do we want to make it just in time? So they're starting to look at some business use cases and some business models to change how they're actually producing product. Probably the largest thing on here is and it reflects directly on that, is the supply chain challenges. It's visibility into the supply chain. How do companies do that with all the different back office platforms that they have? And Bill got into yesterday, and he brought it up about integration. That's one of the biggest challenges that we see, is being able to leverage that data that's out there, pull it forward, bring it into Salesforce, show it to individuals that need to see it, and really to help them do their jobs easier in the day, or whatever their daily job is. So with that data piece, we like to call this the spaghetti map, because I know my back office looked like this as a customer. I had 14 ERPs, multiple production platforms. I had 5 production platforms at one plant, which didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But it's really, this is all about taking data and satisfying the stakeholders on the right-hand side, making their lives easier, which ultimately makes the better customer experience. because that's truly what we're looking for when we say it. And I have an infinity slide in a minute, but when we talk about putting the customer at the center of everything we do, and we work with customers, it's also talking about putting their customer at the center of everything. Whoever that customer is. Initially, it can be, and for me, oftentimes with a lot of our customers, that initial customer is internal employee. Because I was trying to solve a problem for, say, sales. If we just take this particular slide on a problem, sales needed information about orders. Well, in my old world, probably 8 years ago, 9 years ago probably, if sales wanted information about a customer that they were going to go visit, they literally would call customer service. They'd email customer service, who then would figure out what division the customer's product came out of, log into that ERP, log into that production platform, see what's there, email the salesperson back. Pretty inefficient. So one of the things that I was able to do is leverage that data, pull it into Salesforce. If you're familiar with Salesforce, there's an account object, so an account page for that customer, and display the order information right there. Now, we thought we were solving just a problem for sales, but in reality, we were solving a major problem for customer service, because now customer service could actually focus on the customer, not worried about the salesperson calling them up. Hey, I need this information. By the way, I'm at the customer's location, on a telephone, calling them up, saying, hey, give me this information. So for us, that was a big pain point that we ended up solving. And really, it just helped. It helped the organization across the board. And we truly thought we were just solving a problem for sales so they'd have real-time information. And we just saw this trickle effect of what was going on. Again, how Salesforce got to where we are today, one of the things that we do, so we have Jujar Singh who runs our product team. And one of the things that he's looked at and done now is you took basically sales, service, created Manufacturing Cloud, but we also look now at different solutions that we have maybe for financial services, Bill, for a bank, or consumer goods. And one of the things from a product strategy perspective is we've taken components and now we just reuse them elsewhere. So when we just launched AutoCloud, a lot of that's on the back end. Now the use cases solve what auto companies need to have solved, but on the back end of that, they took parts of consumer goods, they took part of Manufacturing Cloud, they took part of regular Service Cloud, and that's how we can innovate a lot faster, come to market a lot faster from a solution perspective with something like AutoCloud, which didn't take all that much time, honestly, from being in. I have a degree in software development, so developing things in the past, just at small scale, was a total nightmare for me. And Salesforce is able to come out, create a solution because they're taking components of other things we've already built out to put them together. Seems simple, but a lot of companies, and not even us, we didn't do that five years ago, even. So it's just a change in the business model. And really the things are being able to look at what is the industry looking for. So again, if you go back to that one slide that I showed with the different customer logos on there, did the exact same thing for auto. What are companies looking for? We did the same thing for Manufacturing Cloud. And we continue to have those conversations so that the product keeps maturing with different solutions that our manufacturing customers are looking for. This is a repeat. I had a slide that I thought I hid, but it's basically the 5 areas where we are working with our customers. When we go into customers and we start talking to them, whether it's with the partner or just Salesforce initially, a lot of the conversation actually revolves around that 4th one down, which is data. How do I take data? How do I make actionable insights out of it? AI is becoming more and more relevant in everything that almost every company does, whether that AI is being done by someone looking at it, right? So it's not AI, but just a human looking at it and making decisions. That's happening. It's been happening for a long time. So now it's leveraging technology to do it. And I think that's a key area from our CRMA, our CRM analytics tool, that is driving a lot of the decisions companies are making. It's driving the decisions around what I was talking about with inventory. Do we want to make inventory? Do we not want to make inventory? So really that's changing the business model that a lot of these companies are looking at and trying to figure out, as the economy changes, what should we be doing? And I think the key thing, I don't know if it was said yesterday, but one of the key things is when we say it, is fail fast, right? I think that's something that, it sounds weird, but create a solution. If it's not going to work, adjust it. Just get it out there, get it moving, do something. I think that's probably the biggest thing when it comes to business transformation, is start somewhere. Because if you look at what, you call it digital transformation, or I always like business transformation, because it wasn't about, I think it was, maybe Bill said it yesterday, it's not about an IT project. It's about business. So don't worry about the technology behind it. What use case, what business problem are you trying to solve? And focusing on that, you can move quickly, make changes, adjust as you need to. And I'd say the other one on here that's really critical, that we're seeing more and more traction in manufacturing, is that commercial operations. So looking more at an order management solution. What does happen after the customer buys a product from us? We need to keep track of that. What does it look like when you go from that quote to a bid, to a contract, whatever that looks like? It's being able to pull data out of the back office, pull it into Salesforce, to be able to see that holistic view, not just from a customer experience, which traditionally I would have thought about is the customer happy? Are there CAPA cases that the customer's filed, a corrective action, preventative action case? But really being able to have everyone in the organization know exactly the health of that customer, so when they have an interaction with that customer, they're all looking at the same sheet of music, so to speak. And I think the third one on here, well, really these are all 5 key areas we're working with, but another area is service. So from a field service perspective, what does that look like? How can companies pivot quickly? And a lot of companies, particularly in OEM manufacturers, are now starting to look at, how do we get a piece of that service pie? How do we help drive business to our dealers, our distributors, whoever's doing the service on a product that they've already sold? So a lot of the OEMs are thinking about their partner's experience, but ultimately, they've got that end customer experience in mind. So they have revenue in mind, obviously. They want a piece of that service revenue, but they're also looking at it from, how do we make life easier for our partners, and how do we make the experience better for our customer? When we look at, and I talked a little earlier about building out manufacturing cloud. So basically, if you take the traditional sales and service clouds, that was the basis for manufacturing cloud. And then we started looking, and we do this with each one of those. So if you go back, if I won't go back to it, but that one slide where I was talking about how we look at maybe CG Cloud and FinServ and manufacturing cloud, we look at what the industry data models look like. So what is going to help this particular industry, whether it's manufacturing or others, what's going to help them? What are they looking to do with the data that's out there? So we just kind of kept tiering it in, right? And number 3 there lists out a lot more of the purpose-built solutions that we've created for manufacturing cloud, whether it is forecasting or it's sales agreements. Creating apps, allowing customers to be able to create the apps to a sales rep to sit in a car and leverage, the core platform itself to be able to modify the data that they want, or they're just leveraging Salesforce in its mobile capacity, which it is out of the box. And then rebate management. I also have another slide that I'll show with all the different changes that we've made and enhancements that we've made to manufacturing cloud since its initial release. So from a customer's perspective, we took basically the customer 360 wheel and laid it out in what we call a subway format. So this is just a visual to allow our customers to look at the different solutions, the different areas that we can help them with, and let them decide where they want to start. because we call it the subway because you can start anywhere you want on here. Marketing literally has probably 8 different icons instead of just one. But it allows our customers to say, hey, this is what's most important. As we're talking with them, when we ask and trying to dig into their business use case, what's most important to them, they can literally just point to something on here and say, that let's talk about that more. Let's dig deeper into CPQ. Let's dig deeper into commerce. What does the commerce look like? Is it B2B, B2C? Is it both? Is it just commerce? Does that encompass everything? So this is a slide we often use just to visualize the depth and breadth of Manufacturing Cloud, which is in that center part, right? The sales operations piece is really the heart of Manufacturing Cloud itself. Taking that same, if we take the Customer 360, to me it's always been an infinity loop, because as you create iterations of something, it could be marketing, it could be Manufacturing Cloud itself, you're going to continue to want to iterate and grow. And it was Mike's session with Rajiv where they were talking about once you give that end user that information, that power, it's almost, and I think Rajiv said it maybe, Mike, where they become insatiable, right? Like I want more information. So having an infinity loop concept or just a thought process around it, because you're going to continue to do it. And you're not going to do everything on here, right? Like what does our actual versus plan versus forecast look like? Well, you're just going to keep looping through that because it's going to change. Your business is going to change. And as it changes, being able to adjust. So it's kind of a take on maybe the fail fast, and change things. But hopefully you're not failing and you're actually just changing because your business model is changing. Like I was talking about the shingle company. Their business model is changing. The other examples of companies that they've changed their service model. They've changed their onboarding model. And they're leveraging Manufacturing Cloud to be able to look at, hey, what should our business model look like from a service perspective? In the past, and it's Fight Corporation, I don't know if I have a slide in, I don't think I do. When COVID hit for them, they basically had, like a lot of companies did, sent everybody home. And then, a couple weeks later, figured out their plant floor, got their production, three different shifts, so that if one shift got sick and it took out their staff, they still had 2 more shifts running, so they went to basically 24 hours a day. But one of the things that they did was in their service model was customers didn't want anybody from Fight coming on site. Fight didn't want to send anybody on site. So they started doing remote triage, remote service, and they have no intentions of going back to their original model, which was, hey, we're just going to roll a truck, we're going to come out, we're going to figure it out. We hope we have the right thing on the truck to solve your problem. A byproduct of that, and if you think about it in this infinity loop concept, a byproduct of that service model is their onboarding of employees. And you're like, what? That doesn't make sense. When a master service technician is triaging with a customer, they're doing it remotely, they're using Google Meet or Zoom, whatever they're using, with the end customer, they actually have a new hire, a junior service tech, who's watching, listening, and seeing how this master service tech is interfacing with the customer. So that's their, and that is now their onboarding for their service technicians. Instead of plopping two people in a vehicle, going out to the customer and having that new service tech watch the master service technician, they're doing it remotely. And the other piece of that is they understand and know exactly what product they need to have on that truck if they do have to roll the truck out there. And they also now give the customer the option, because many manufacturers you have your engineers, you have your maintenance personnel. Do we just want to send the product to you and you install it? Or do you actually want us to come out and install it? So it's that end user, that customer experience that Fike's been able to change, and they have no intentions of going back to the way it was before. So this is the slide I was talking about. I won't go through all these. So there's been 10 releases now. There is a winter 23. But it would throw my slide off if I put one more box up there. Basically, all these different things are really coming from our customers. So this is an innovation session, right? And a summit. That's really how we innovate. It's our customers saying, hey, that's great on the sales agreements. We want forecasting. Well, what does forecasting mean? Well, forecasting is how much stuff did I sell, so how much do I have to make? Now you're giving information to your operations team, but hey, now I kind of want to do it by product. I don't want to do it by account. Or I want to do it by account, I don't want to do it by product. So it's really talking about slicing and dicing of that data and having customers be able to come to Salesforce. We look at it, and that's really how we've been able to continue to innovate and go through all these, whether it's rebate management, not something that the initial release of Manufacturing Cloud we were thinking about. But customers started coming to us saying, hey, I've had some rebate management. Like, okay, what do you mean? Like, what? We knew what it was, but like, give us some use cases. And that's how we just continue to grow in a solution and innovate, again, through our customers, because we've had 10 releases now, and there's more coming. I think there's 2 releases, usually 2 releases ahead in what we're in really developing the product, developing the code itself. So this is really just it's a slide we often talk about, like, what does the journey look like, right, for the customer? What's most important? If you go back almost to the spaghetti slide, to the Subway slide, where do you want to start? You can, a bunch of different customer use cases, customer stories around this being mixed up. Maybe, looking at integrations is often a topic. And again, back to what I was just talking about, what does that integration strategy look like? Maybe the customer already has one. Maybe they already have Boomi and it's all set up and they're integrating with other things. Great. Like, how do we work with you to be able to get that data, to get it into Manufacturing Cloud, to then be able to push it back and forth into your ERP, whether it's SAP, Infor, Oracle, whatever it is.